Hello and welcome to What Lingers, the podcast where we uncover the questions behind people's stories. I am Christian Figueroa.
And I'm Liz Melkor. Together, we're the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, where once a month, 10 storytellers get on stage in front of 200 people and share true personal stories around a theme.
It's always an incredible night, but there is a catch. We always have lingering questions for the storytellers.
In our podcast, What Lingers, we get the answers. In our third season, we jump right in and take you back to that stage. You'll hear the original story told that night.
Then, we sit down with the storyteller for a deeper conversation to explore what lingers for all of us.
Just a quick note, since these recordings are from the actual stage, the audio might be a bit raw.
Okay, so let's get into it.
So, I'm nervous, this helped. So, for me, it has always been a family of five. Me, my two sisters who were born on the same day as me, so I was a triplet. Well, I am a triplet. Thank you, I love that. Yes. You probably never met one. Yes, it's me. So it was always the three of us, and my mom and my dad. And we never had like a family member that would come up and help and support us with anything. So the whole I always love my friends' stories when they say, oh, my grandma, she's amazing. Oh my God, my grandpa, he would go for, soccer games and stuff. Okay, good for you, I don't know. So it was always the five of us. And my parents own a cake factory in a small town in the Algarve called Lolé. And thank you. The one person in the audience who knows where Lolé is. Thank you. And I always tell where I come from because usually this is not the face of someone who comes from Lolé, which is a small city in the south. And I was always grown into this kind of place where my parents worked a lot. They own a cake factory. My mom is a migrant from Cape Verde. My dad is a very traditional white Portuguese man. And we never really gotten this kind of thing where families get together with their family members. And so it was very difficult to have family time. And so what happened was my parents once said, you know what, we should make a deal. And every Sunday try and take our kids a little bit further to a different beach, not Quarteira, not Albufeira, something a little bit further. And so there was this one time, my parents said, you know what, let's go to the Costa Vicentina. A little bit further. And so we did. We packed our things, how the cars get really full. It's 3 kids, 2 adults, an entire day at the beach, coming out at 8 a.m. in the morning just to get there and have a place at the beach. So there we were. It was so packed. All we could see was sun umbrellas, It was all bodies. And I have this weird relationship with the sea. I really love it. I really love to watch it. It really tells something about this idea of the waves, the movement. And I really love it, but I'm always really scared of it. And I read something one day about cellular memory, and it told me something about my ancestry and how slaves would get drowned into the ocean, and somehow I think it slipped in through my cells, and it kind of speaks to me, and I don't know if that's why I'm scared, but I am. And so I always look at it and with some kind of admiration, but then also at the same time fear. But that day, with a full beach, I thought, you know what? I really want to go into the ocean. It was a small beach. It was like rocks, one side and the other side, filled with people. Nothing bad could happen to me. Everything was fine. I was with my sisters, with my parents. It was all good. So I asked a few times if I could go to the water. And my parents were like, oh, there she is. Why can't you keep quiet? Why can't you just stay where your sisters are? And so I kind of started going slowly. As I entered the ocean, I didn't notice how the waves were super big. And so I started coming in really slowly, and all of a sudden I couldn't feel the beach. I'd lost my feet. And I was getting really fast and really rapidly thrown into the rocks. And as I'm struggling, I was probably 8. As I'm struggling, trying to figure out what I was gonna do, I, at one specific moment, catch myself thinking, this is it. This is it. I'm gonna die. This is the end. And water is coming into my mouth, and I can't breathe, and I don't even know where my limbs are going anymore. I'm just, okay, this is over. I'm just gonna let go as the rocks are coming towards me. And I say, I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna die. Right here, right now. That moment, I just feel this really rushed feeling of air coming to me. There's this lifeguard that actually like takes me into his arms. Not a Baywatch scene. And I'm just like really tired, like I don't know what's happening. All of a sudden I can't breathe again. I'm not dead. And as this person lays me in the sand, I see this figure that I know, this very authoritative figure running towards me like there's no tomorrow, and I recognize it. It's my dad. And my dad is now 69. He just retired about 2 years ago, is absolutely in denial, and has no idea what to do with his life. All of a sudden now, I look at it, and actually he doesn't seem so authoritarian, but back then, I was so scared of him. He was a traditional disciplinarian. So the only way that he made up into our lives was by saying when we were wrong or when we were right. And so having him rush towards me, I knew I was wrong. I knew that I had done nothing good. This is at the same moment I know that I'm having a second chance in life. I know that this is the moment anything else is possible, because I'm alive. I didn't die. Although the sea wanted to take me, it didn't manage to do it. So my dad grabs my arm, gives me 2 big açoites, slaps in the ass. And I'm crying my balls out. I have no idea what's going on. But then my dad starts yelling at me saying, what did you do? Why didn't you follow an order? Why is it that you always have to be like this? And by a very young, since I was very little, I knew that I had to behave. I had to be mostly like my sisters who like to play in the sand and not throw myself at stupidly big waves in a beach that I didn't know of. So to me, it was really a chance of looking at this man who now is so different, is such a different person. And for me to then be able to survive a sea that has always been meant to not just kill us. Thank you.
Alexa, my love, it's so good to see you. It's so good to have you at What Lingers. Welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation to talk about your story. We know you from the stage, of course, but for people listening at home around the world, would you mind introducing yourself?
Well, thank you for inviting me. This was a really good surprise. I haven't been on stage for a while because I moved to a different city. My name is Alexa. As my stories always tell, a triplet. And I am living in Brussels at the moment. So it's been quite a change. And I miss Lisbon a lot.
What are you doing in Brussels? What do you do for work?
So I am actually a social worker, a trained social worker, and I work for the biggest LGBTI organization in Europe. We represent more than 700 organizations throughout Europe and Central Asia. And I basically care for all of the logistics for all the events and meetings for this organization. So it's quite a lot.
Oh, wow. So you moved because of work.
It was one of these opportunities that you can't miss. Although Brussels is rainy and gray, in comparison to Lisbon, it was really an opportunity I couldn't miss.
I wanted to actually start where you start, which is the triplet thing. Which I'm curious because, when you said triplet, and then I think the audience kind of made a lot of noise about it, and then you kind of make a joke like, "Oh, yeah, I'm probably the only triplet you've ever met." And yes, you are the only triplet I've ever met that I know of. And so I want to be that annoying person, which you must have had your whole life, which is like, are you an identical triplet? What's it like to be a triplet? Tell me more.
Well, I am an identical triplet with one of my siblings.
Oh,
Yes.
whoa. Okay. That like adds a layer of fascination because I didn't know that was possible.
Mother Nature.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're in science, so in my mom's case, she had two eggs who were ready to be inseminated, and one of them continued and the other one got separated. It became two people, and so that's how it became three. So there was two placentas. One of them was shared and the other one wasn't, and so that's how I am an actual twin with one of my siblings.
So crazy. Like the magic of Mother Nature. And now I'm thinking about like, what are your, like the astrology of it? Like you three people have the charts. I don't know. This is so interesting.
Yes.
And I have to say, like, Liz has been asking about this for years since you've been on stage. Liz has been like, I need to know more. So thank you for being here.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. But okay, actually, but how about that? Okay, you're now I've just learned you're an identical twin and a triplet. So that's two things. But is it annoying? Is it annoying? Not is it annoying to be a triplet, but is it annoying the reaction of somebody like me because I'm one of a thousand people. It's like, oh, tell me, because it's so unique.
You know what? I think for the longest time it was something I didn't understand because of course this is my reality.
Yeah, you don't know a different one.
But now it's just part of a story that I can tell, And it's something that really distinguishes me from most people. And so it actually became a tool for me to not only understand who I was within a world where there's so little people who have this experience. And because every time someone asks, I have to think about it, And most of my time, most of my life, I just kind of like walk around without having to mention the fact that I'm a triplet. So every time that I mention and then people ask, I have to go back to what does this mean to me? And so I really like that because it does change.
Yeah, interesting. And what does it mean to you?
So I think it's mostly the fact that I've never had a time in my life where I was alone, especially growing up, because we were always together. We would always go to places together. We were on the same schools. We mostly had the same teachers until high school. So there's a joint identity that happens. Either you like it or not. We were perceived as a bunch. People used to call us manas, which means sisters. So we wouldn't have like an individual identity. We would always be seen as this group. And it's interesting because then every time I think about it, I always go to things like, for example, imagine that one of us wanted to do a certain thing. I want to go out with my friends. And the only way that I can go out with my friends is if my sisters want to go out with me and my friends. So basically, I would have to not only get my sisters on board, and then after getting my sisters on board, I would have to get my parents on board. So that gave me a lot of negotiation skills from a very early age.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking already about like teenage years when you wanted to separate yourself from even the world and your family, and then you have to separate from your beloved sisters and dating and gender and sexuality and all these things come into the play that I want to live in another city, I want to go to another country. How was that transition for you all?
Well, it's really interesting because the process of individuation, so the process of me understanding myself as a person, as an individual, I think it took a lot longer than most people. So I think that I only was able to really accept who I was and really embrace who I was much later. So not so much during teenage years, but after already being a young adult. And I think it only happened really when I was able to not be in the same context as my sisters. So actually having different teachers, actually going into this degree that was not something that my sisters wanted to pursue. But I also want to say that I think my mom did a really, really great job. I think my mom is just one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. She was able to, like, during the 80s, not only birth us, but also provide us with the tools that we needed to become very distinct adults. My sister Adriana, she became a doctor, works in a hospital. My sister Andrea, she's a manager. She manages my parents' cake factory, and I'm a social worker, you know.
Wow.
And so she was able to provide us with the tools to become our own individuals, our own people. I will forever be grateful for her to not impose on us this idea that we had to be the same, that we had to be equal, that we needed to like the same things. And I think that really, really, when I was finally able to kind of like branch out and I moved to Lisbon with like 18 to study, that's when really I was around and I was like, okay, it's okay. I can be who I am. Again, because my mom is such a great woman, she always said, you know what, I'm going to support you in whatever decisions that you're making. It doesn't mean that she agreed with all of them, not always. When I said to her that I wanted to be a social worker, she was like, what are you going
Why?
to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna be poor forever?
How are you going to support yourself by helping poor people? What do you mean? And so she never understood it really. And then when I did my master's in gender, sexuality, and queer theory, that was even like worse. Just like,
Alexa, you're making the best face right now. I can't even. I'm trying to think like how could I explain it for people on audio, but I think you're gonna have to search out the video, people.
Go on YouTube, probably, and find us.
So your mom wasn't dressing you guys all the same because
no.
I mean that's a choice I think some parents make.
Yeah. And I mean, and you see some twins that are adults dressing the same, you know, and I think
Yeah, like through their life.
yes, so it becomes a big part of their identity. And this is why I feel like it's incredible that my mom really managed somehow to really provide us with the confidence to just be who we wanted to be. And really, she would always provide with the tools that we needed to, you know, proceed with whatever was the choice that we made. So I think she's really a great woman because of that, and a great parent because of that. Again, not always being able to be the idea of mom that sometimes we might have, but really like one of the best parents I could have ever asked for.
Oh,
I'm getting already emotional, Alexa.
Christian,
Oh,
you can't already cry. You
I,
can't cry yet. No, you
oh my
can. You
God,
can.
Jesus. Oh, yeah. And how about your dad? Because your story revolves around your relationship with your dad. How was for your dad to be the father of a triplet in a small town? And maybe for context, would you bring us a little bit of context about what Lolé is in Portugal? You mentioned about that you don't look like a person from Lolé. Your mom, of course, is from Cape Verde, and your dad is Portuguese. So if you can give us a picture of what is Lolé.
So for the most recent context about the region of the Algarve, which is the south of Portugal, um, the right wing party in Portugal got the most votes from that region. So for people to have like a little bit of a context, politically that's where we are. So extreme right, not even like center right. We're talking, you know, extreme right. And then we're talking about a region that is quite depleted in terms of resources. So, although half of its coast is touching the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, there is a big tourist industry around that area. It doesn't get to the inwards of the region. So, my city, Lolé, is not on the coast. It's actually sited by two big mountains. Well, two big mountains in the context of Portugal, where there aren't very many big mountains.
Yeah, like for an Austrian, that would be a hill.
Yes. So let's call it a hill for the sake of Austrians. So basically, we used to call it the potty of the Algarve. Even if everywhere else there's sun, in Lolé, it's probably raining.
Oh, wow. Like a micro weather situation.
Yes, because of the hills. So my mom moved there in the 80s looking for work, and she met my dad while she was working. So my mom got a pneumonia and she had to be hospitalized, and she didn't have enough money to pay for the bills at the hospital. And so her coworker started a little raffle to get money to support my mom paying her bills while she was in the hospital. And my dad was the person who gave the most amount of money.
Oh, but he didn't know her yet.
He didn't know her yet. So when my mom got back to work, my mom's coworker was like, "Hey, this was the dude that gave the most amount of money for your recovery." And my mom was like, "Hello,
Of
how are
course.
you?" I mean, my dad was a hunk. Like, seriously, he was like super tall, super stylish, well spoken, funny, And so my mom was like, "Hello, mister." And she was 16, he was 25. And
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Back in the days, we have to remember back in the days.
Back in the days. Yes. Yes. And my dad had been married twice already. So
What?
it's like,
okay, that
when I say a hunk, I mean before my mom, he had 2 kids from each wife.
before 25.
Yes.
Jesus. Okay.
He got married the first time at 18. And this is why it's important to think like times are different. And so basically, they fell in love completely. And they started a relationship that is still going on today. Right?
And it was a biracial relationship. And how many people did Lolé have in the 1980s?
Oof, a few thousands.
Okay, I'm guessing it was a pretty white town.
Yeah.
And probably there weren't very many, or maybe if any, interracial couples.
Yes. So all my mom's friends were white. Everybody that was around her were white. There's a small Black community, mostly from Cape Verde, living in a next town called Quarteira, but we live 30 kilometers away. And 30 kilometers don't seem much, but with no infrastructures, we really never really went. For the most part, I never really had contact with people that were not white.
Wow. Until you moved to Lisbon, I guess.
Until I moved to Lisbon, and in specific moments. So, for example, my mom was never, ever, ever someone who was afraid or ashamed of her culture.
Okay.
Right? So we would have like visits from my mom's family. And so my mom's uncle, he used to live in Rotterdam, so in the Netherlands, which is also a really big community of Cape Verdean people. And we visited a couple of times my uncles, but it's really the word is really assimilation. So I think my mom, her biggest worry was that we wouldn't be assimilated and that we wouldn't have the same opportunities if we weren't. So I think she really tried the best she could to tell us not to be ashamed of who we were, but also not really providing a very big cultural context where we would learn, for example, the language. I've never learned Creole. We were trying really hard to just, not be picked up on because we weren't white. So we would get our hair straightened. We would have the same kind of like hobbies as everybody else that was white. And I would very rarely hang out with other Black people unless it was the 1st of May. I think I'm preparing a story to tell about the 1st of May with my mom. Because it was such a different context than the one that I was always used to. And I would see my mom sparkle within her own culture. And the reason why is because the Cape Verdean community would organize this big party.
Is it Labor Day for Cape
Yes,
Verdean?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so basically we would be surrounded by all these Black people coming together for this party. So all of these things that were outside of my every day happened on that day. And then I would hear my mom tell stories about her community and about her life story, etc., that were very different than the stories that I was listening on my day to day. But in that context, they appeared, they resurfaced. And so it's really quite something to think of that. But I also think logistically it was just really hard for my mom to like take us to places where other Black people were, because not only she was working a lot, she had to take care of the three of us. But then what this means, since my dad is white and we were mostly in a white context, was that even though we're light skinned, my mom is also not very dark skinned, we would still get a lot of racism and a lot of jokes around our hair, for example. The people that we would have relationships with, their parents would say things like, oh, you know, I've never wanted a Black grandchild when we were in the room. So it took a long time for us to actually feel, I think, beautiful, worthy, accepted, and things like that. But then again, I think because my mom was such an incredible human and really like whenever she's anywhere, she just sparks and is so nice and is so, I mean, also like the performativity of excellence by Black people is a reality, right? So I think we also took from her. She would always be impeccably dressed, all the impeccable makeup. Her hair was always on point. She was always so like perfect, you know, always. And so we always picked up on her.
Such a burden.
Yeah. So we picked up on her, and we were always the best students in school. We were always the nice kids to be around. We were super well behaved. We've never missed one day of class. I mean, we couldn't, you know.
Yeah, you couldn't. But also, like you mentioned in your story, that even inside your house, you were the one out of the curve. So your dad was always telling you, like, why can you not be like your sisters? What was it about you that your sister weren't?
Well, I always dreamed a lot.
Like in the day or at night?
Yeah, what do you mean with dreaming?
Day, night, every time, all the time. No, but I was a daydreamer. So I always felt that it couldn't be true, that this was all that the world had to offer. I couldn't, so I would be like 10, 11, 12, and I'd be talking to my parents about going abroad, learning English, traveling, knowing other cultures. And so I always had this kind of attitude where I was like, I'm not gonna accept something or a world that I don't understand or don't agree with.
Yeah, kind of challenging the system of your, I mean, family or your household.
Yes. Whilst at the same time trying to be accepted and trying to be part of that world and context and being loved. And so it was quite a balance. And I think my parents sometimes got quite frustrated with me because they just wish that I didn't defy them, that I didn't question, that I was just like okay with them saying whatever I needed. And so, yeah, so I think that's also why then my dad was like, oh my God, why do you have to always be like this?
But I feel like it's like your whole story in some ways was about that. And you even start with maybe some of the rebellion, but it's like you start the story with saying that your family was always like taking you guys a little bit further outside of your town, right? Like your family was living like the small Portuguese town life, but like still kind of, you know, making your borders get a little bit bigger and bigger. And yeah, and actually I have a question because I think you don't say it, but how old were you in this story?
So I was like between 8 and 9. So I was actually really, really small.
Really young. Really young to have this near-death experience. That's so tiny to be facing your mortality. So did you have a notion of like death?
You know, I don't remember having it earlier on. Again, because I was such a dreamer, and to me, like life was just kind of this nice place to be at. But this is why I think the story is also so interesting, because I remember clearly letting go. And so I think at some point I'm just like, okay, this is really the end. And I repeated a lot of times in my story because it was such a realization. I was like, the end is actually possible. The end can actually be here. And I was exactly thinking, I'm gonna die. It's okay. I'm just gonna let go.
It's like this radical acceptance Buddha moment at 8. Good job.
But it's really, I mean, I think to me, it's also, thinking about this moment and then telling the story, the contrast between, I'm accepting, it's going, it's leaving, I'm fine with it. And then the rush of the moment that happened just right after it. That's, I think, the thing that I have the most difficulty describing even. And I was listening at the story and then I was thinking, wow, I still have difficult time, like even comprehending what happened afterwards. And being met with such a angry, kind of violent right after, it's really incredible. And for me to look at that now and looking at like who my dad is as a man, it's really, 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 it really strikes me because my dad, he was lucky enough to meet a woman that always pushed forward. She always took my dad traveling. And mind you, like my mom is also the person who like buys clothes for my dad, folds the clothes for my dad, takes care of the house, cooks for my dad. So whilst being quite devoted to my dad, providing a lot of care and to him in a very patriarchal way, she also always thought very much outside of the box. So my dad always took a bit of a backside type of place, and he was never really present in the sense that he was the provider. He was the person who's like, he's here to make money, to pay the bills, you know, but then was never really able to be in touch with his feelings. And that's also why it's so difficult for him to be retired, because what do I do now?
Yeah. Feel my emotions, see my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Maybe. And so the story was also important to me because I'm also facing my dad becoming more and more and more aware of the fact that he's not functioning the same way. This idea that he's still the boss of the family, or he really wants to linger on to that feeling, or and kind of still have that, because what else if I'm not that, What else is there for me?
Do you think that's the same situation nowadays? I mean, does your relationship with your dad or his relationship to the family has changed over time, or you think this is remaining over time? Because Portugal has changed. I mean, everything that you're sharing comes from, of course, a very traditional, patriarchy, masculine oriented society that we are all in. And Portugal, of course, for being Catholic and stuff, like Colombia, my country, it's kind of the same. But do you think that has changed?
So they're still living in Lowland. They're still together. They still have the business.
The factory cake. I want to know about the factory cake.
I do too, actually. I do too. I want to know what kind of cakes.
All kinds of cakes. All kinds of cakes.
And how many cakes would you eat as a child?
A lot.
Like, were you eating them all the time or never?
All the time. All the time. I mean, my dad would bring, the leftovers from like the cake factories.
Okay, wait, but now I have a question, because if I ate cake every day as a child, well, that would be heavenly. But I could also see myself like arriving to adult age and being like, yuck, cake. Do you still eat cake?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I love cake. I love all kinds of cakes.
And just going back to my question, because we kind of took that tangent. I'm curious about how's your relationship with your dad now. And
I'm a lesbian.
Okay.
And my dad is a homophobe.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Welcome to the club. Yeah.
Oh, the not fun club. Oh.
it's a difficult one.
The not fun club. Yeah. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah. So he has a very difficult time with me, because although we do share quite some like affinities, somehow I think we really, really like each other. He has like a heart of gold. Like really, he butters so fast. He's always there for others. And I think a lot of like my own understanding of people as, people who deserve care and attention and things like that came from my dad.
Yeah, it's like he met your mom because he was the one giving the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think it was very difficult for him when I came out. And I think it's very difficult for him that he's not in my life as much, and that we don't get to have conversations as maybe we did in the past, because I'm someone who was also very curious about humans and my parents equally. And so I would always be the person within my triplets setting that would ask questions like, I would ask questions like, oh, so what was it for you when you started dating mom? And what were the reactions of your friends? How did that go? And my dad, he has little vocabulary, and again, he's not very in touch with his emotions. And so he would say things like, "Oh, it was really cool because he was quite exotic," you know. And of course, this is like a really bad way to say it.
Yeah, in 2025.
My mom would always have a response for him and be like, "Yes, I was a parrot," and my dad would like put me in his shoulder to show off to his friends. Of course, being very ironical. But I think he never lived anywhere else but Lolé. He never did anything else but the business. Every time he travels, because my mom sets everything from buying the tickets to doing the suitcases to everything.
You just show up.
So he shows up. He shows up.
How old were you when you came out of the closet to him?
So 22, I think. So about 16 years ago.
Okay. And are your sisters also queer, or you're
No,
the only one? Okay.
I'm the only one. I mean, but we're still not very traditional in the way that we are. So one of my sisters has a kid, but has never got married, and my other sister is married but doesn't want kids. So we're still not exactly the traditional kind.
Yeah, I mean, your father was a really like strong. I mean, he's a strong figure on the beach, right? It's like you're laying there, you almost just died. You came to this realization that like I was okay to die, and now I'm here and I'm alive. And then your dad's like standing there with rage, and you say like he always told us what was right and what was wrong. And I found that, I don't know, maybe because my parents were sort of absent in a way where I had no goalposts, so I sort of had to make my own. But it was interesting for me to hear that there was these like just such strong goalposts, and you were in a lot of ways always like pushing against these very strong rules.
Yeah, yeah. When I think about this, and I can really relate to my dad in the sense that if you're not very capable of accessing your emotions and you're a very masculine man, the way you show um, that you are so afraid of losing your kid, the only so the rage that he had was not really rage, was worry, was like, you know, but the only way that he could access that was through rage, the frustration, the fear. It's not like he couldn't embrace me and hug me and cry with me. That's not allowed, you know.
Yeah, if I put myself in his shoes, it's got to be so insanely terrifying to watch your child thrash in the sea.
Yeah.
Right? And then the immense amount of feeling comes up, and it only can come out in rage because that's how feeling was demonstrated to him, I guess, in men.
Yeah, and also putting like probably the sensation that he had of not taking care of you onto you. Like you are the one responsible for this. It's not me, the parent. Like so, yeah, it's a lot of complex emotions just in really fast. So
I mean, the failure.
Yes, and projecting it.
exactly, the failure of being a dad, projecting it to you. And first, I want to know if you still have that fear of the ocean. And the second thing that you mentioned about the story about slaves being drowned in the ocean, was this something that you were kind of aware of when you were a child, or this was something that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't at all. It's and I put it in the story because at some point I'm like, this fear it shouldn't happen, because I'm actually like, I've been in the ocean since I'm a little girl, like, and so I had no understanding of this fear. It was later in life when I came across these stories and how they sometimes impact people, that I was like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what happened. And I mention it in the story because I think there's probably a lot of people that encounter that kind of like inexplicable situations, fears, worries that they can't really pin when, where, why. And sometimes it might be this.
Well, I think there's even studies that like a lot of fears are passed actually in DNA, right?
Yeah, I was going to say epigenetics, if you want to Google it. And there's a lot of studies, like Gabor Mate, for example, talks a lot about the generational trauma that is passed on.
But this is the thing. I think it's also interesting because it's never a simplistic thing, right? It's always these very complex things that it's like, I love you, but I fear you. I want you, but at the same time, I don't know what to do with you. And so for me, the ocean is that it's like, it feels like home, whilst at the same time, it feels like I can't really do it too much. I'm a bit afraid. I like people always ask me like, "Oh my God, you live in a country where there's surf. Like, do you surf?" And I'm like, "Me? Surfing? Never. What?"
You'll see me on a surfboard for a second, and then I like plop into the water. But what you're saying is like what at the end of the story, really what I came away with is sort of just the complexity and the ability for these sort of two things that are in complete opposition to exist together, right? It's like you love the ocean, but you fear the ocean. You love your father, and like when you talk about him now, I hear that love, and you also it's really complicated because like he's not fully accepting you, and he was this like intense disciplinarian, and there's evolution of that over time, like how one views and deals with these complexities. I appreciate that in the story. That's a human experience, this complexity, these things coexisting. No one's like all good, all bad, you know?
It's really, really interesting because I think throughout the years, I've been trying to be more and more kind to my parents and to their reactions, for example, to the fact that I'm a lesbian. And I remember this conversation that I had with my mom once. And I mean, she gets really, really, really sad when I say that they're not supportive parents because she feels that she really does her best to be supportive and to be there. And she feels that a lot of the reasons why they're not more in my life is because I also don't reach out. She, of course, doesn't understand that for me to reach out, there's a big pain and a lot of hurt that comes with it because they're constantly, not legitimizing my relationships, not really asking about where I am and what I'm doing and how I'm going, etc. Just because they don't want to listen to my answers. They don't want to. They don't want me to say, "Oh, I've been to this place with my girlfriend." They don't want to hear that. It's really difficult for them. But I think more and more I find myself trying to be kind and understanding and compassionate to my parents. Also because once my mom told me, "You know what? Your dad loves you. And he really, really tries. He just can't." You know? He really, really wishes that he felt differently, but he really doesn't. And so it's really this thing of like, there's so much about the world and society that is like just there, and that he really he doesn't know how to deal with it or how to behave differently or to feel differently about it. And so
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, it's like it's also not your fault that he is not able, and it's like you deserve better, or you deserve love, or you deserve like different situation. And it's like,
of course, of course, of course. So to me, it's really this thing of like I do see it with kindness and compassion, but I also make the decisions that I need to make for my well-being.
Yeah, I think, yeah, which is an amazing response to sort of the complexity of it all.
I'm so emotional. Oh.
Oh. And I okay, but I think we've come to maybe a good point to bring it to a close, and we just have one last question for you, which is how has it been to revisit your story today?
I love it. I love it. I sometimes I go back to the stories that I tell at Storytelling Lisboa because they really ground me somehow. It's like it's really an experience to be able to be on a stage, hundreds of people watching, and also reminding me that these things are part of who I am. And I am really grateful for the fact that you recorded and shared with the storytellers, because it's so great to go back to it. First of all, because you did it, you went there, you were brave enough, and then at the same time, really, like, how did I tell this story again? Why did I choose to tell it this way and not the other way? So sometimes I go back, I revisit, and so I had forgotten some of the details of the way that I told this story, and it's so great to be reminded of it and to be able to speak about it with you guys.
That's it for this episode of What Lingers.
If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It really helps us reach more listeners. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, we'd love for you to share this episode with them.
What Lingers is a podcast from the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, and is produced by both Liz and I, and edited by Liz.
We're a small project, and your support truly motivates us to keep going.
Would also love to hear from you. Feel free to send us a DM or even a voice note with your thoughts, your comments, or questions to our Instagram @WhatLingersPod.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow us so you never miss what lingers next.
Bye!
Bye!